Welcome back to 17 News at Noon podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Noon.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us for 17 News at Noon. I'm Nicole Gitsky. Well, it's now been 70 days since two California City boys were reported missing from their home. Now, the Bakersfield Police Department is now the lead agency on the investigation. BPD made the announcement this morning, saying the California City Police Department and FBI will remain part of the investigation. Now, if you have any information that could lead to the boys' whereabouts, call BPD at 327-7111. And this week, the Kern County Black Chamber of Commerce plans to host a live panel discussion with the boys' biological cousin, Rosanna Willis, to discuss the ongoing search for the boys. That's happening Wednesday at 11 a.m. on the Black Chamber of Commerce's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. And now, in the past 3 days, we've learned of over 50 COVID-19 related deaths. Public Health announced 26 deaths this morning. Now, it's important to note these deaths didn't happen today, but the death is now just being accounted for. Most of these reported deaths happened between November through February. One dates back all the way to August. December remains our deadliest month with 219 lives lost. January now is our second deadliest month. We've only learned of 9 deaths in February so far. Now, the latest update brings our death toll to 877 lives lost since last March. And the number is likely higher as health officials continue to process death certificates. Now, the good news, cases continue to decline. Public Health reported 127 new infections today. State data shows 154 people are in the hospital. Meantime, ICUs are plateauing. 46 people are in the ICU. Now, we haven't seen a number that low since February 10th. And the fight to get students back into the classroom continues. Governor Gavin Newsom held a press conference about an hour ago talking about the plan to reopen schools for in-person instruction. State lawmakers have reached an agreement for $6.6 billion for schools if they reopen for in-person learning by the end of March. Along with that, 75,000 doses of the coronavirus vaccine have been set aside for teachers and educators to get vaccinated. Governor Newsom also mentioned 7 additional counties will be moving into the red tier tomorrow, including that of 11 others that are no longer in the purple tier. And Kern County's emergency medical services system surge plan is now in the lowest of the 4 tiers. As of today, the system meets the threshold for level 1 or the green tier of the surge plan and moves away from the yellow tier. Now, back in December, the county launched the EMS surge plan due to the rising number of calls amid the pandemic. The plan allowed for prioritizing crucial emergency calls. And in a statement over the weekend, the CDC director said she is very concerned that cases have stopped falling across the U.S. And the warning comes as states and localities are preparing to loosen some regulations on in-person gatherings, a development that the CDC says may be premature, especially as the Biden administration prepares for a ramp up in vaccinations in the coming weeks. The CDC added the data may reflect the beginning effects of new variants spreading throughout the U.S. The variant known as B.1.1.7, first identified in the United Kingdom, now represents about 10% of cases in the United States. And today is another grim milestone in the battle against coronavirus. It was 1 year ago on February 29th that the first coronavirus death in the U.S. was reported by the Centers for Disease Control. The victim was in Washington state. At that time, there were less than 24 reported cases of coronavirus in the country. Since then, the nationwide death toll in the United States has increased to more than 500,000 attributed to COVID-19. And a reminder, anyone in phase 1A and 1B are eligible to receive the vaccine right here in Kern County. That includes anyone 65 years or older, healthcare workers and first responders, plus teachers, child care workers, those in emergency services, and people who work in the food and agriculture industry can now get an appointment for the shot. And if you are eligible, you can sign up for a vaccine appointment using the state's website. That's myturn.ca.gov. You can also call 833-422-4255. We checked the site and found that it lists only a handful of local providers right now, when in fact there are dozens of local sites offering the vaccine. State leaders say it will take time to get all the providers connected to the site. And currently, appointments to receive the COVID-19 vaccine are still available for Kern Public Health. The mass vaccination site at the fairgrounds reopens Wednesday, and distribution will last through Saturday. Public Health says vaccine supplies remain extremely limited, so try to book your appointment as soon as you can. To sign up, just use the state's website at myturn.ca.gov. And now to a string of violent shootings over the weekend that left at least 2 people dead and 5 others wounded. One of those shootings, which happened at Martin Luther King Jr. Park, caused a dangerous situation at Kern Medical. Now, according to Bakersfield Police, at least 2 people suffered minor injuries during a shooting at a massive gathering at the park Saturday night. BPD says they don't exactly know how many people were hurt because some witnesses did not want to talk. Now, part of that crowd traveled to Kern Medical. BPD says fights broke out and 3 people were arrested for refusing to disperse. One man, Clifford Given, was charged in connection with the shooting. Now, that wasn't the only shooting Saturday night. Less than 2 hours earlier, a woman was killed during a memorial at Wayside Park. Police officials say the shooting happened during that large memorial gathering at the park, and over 100 cases were recovered. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene, but Waller says she knows the victim's family, and the woman was a mother killed in a senseless act. Now, Wayside sits in Bakersfield 93304 zip code. MLK Park is in part of a much larger 93307 zip code. According to our homicide tracker, both areas account for more than a quarter of county homicides since 2015. According to BPD, they have not received a lot of information about any suspects in the Wayside shooting. Anyone with information can call the department at 327-7111 or stay anonymous and call Kern County Secret Witness Hotline at 322-4040. And 1 person was killed and another was wounded during a separate shooting in Arvin Saturday night. Arvin police officers were called to the area of Haven Drive and Grove Street at about 6 p.m. for a report of a man lying on the ground. Officers found 2 male victims. One had gunshot wounds, and first responders say he was unresponsive. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The second victim was also shot, but was conscious and breathing. Authorities rushed him to a local hospital. This investigation is ongoing, so if you know anything about this case, call Arvin Police at 854-5583. And Saturday night, another shooting, this time in Lamont. Deputies were called to the 800 block of Harold Street just after 7 o'clock. When first responders arrived, they found 1 man with non-life-threatening injuries. Authorities say the victim was shot in a reported drive-by, but that was under investigation. Authorities have not released the identity of the victim or any information about a suspect. If you know anything about this shooting, you're urged to call the sheriff's office at 861-3110, or you can call the Secret Witness Hotline at 322-4040. And the sheriff's office is also investigating a shooting that wounded a man in Oildale Friday night. This happened around 11 o'clock in the area of Northchester and McCord Avenues. Deputies found a man with a gunshot wound on the scene. He was taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. The sheriff's office has not released any information at this time. And a local business is left with heavy repairs this morning after a car drove into its building late last night. A driver drove into the New Generation Real Estate Group office on Stein Road and Beechwood Street in southwest Bakersfield. According to witnesses, the driver of the vehicle fled on foot. Bakersfield Police Department was on scene but has not confirmed reports of the driver leaving the crash. It's unknown whether anyone was injured. And over the past few weeks, Bakersfield has seen a string of window vandalisms, with blame being pointed at the homeless population. But is there more than one side of this story? 17's Ileana Capian explains.
Robert Pear with Bakersfield Police Department says vandalism is an ongoing issue citywide.
Over the past 5 days, we've received 25 reports of vandalism, but that is not just to the downtown area, that is throughout the city of Bakersfield.
Earlier this month, an all too familiar scene, a rash of window damage in the downtown business area. Mark Van Duren was arrested and charged with 6 offenses of felony vandalism. The damage estimated at over $7,000. Roscoe Rolnick owns Guarantee Shoe Center in downtown.
I've had more broken glass and broken windows in the last 8 months than I have in 68 years of business.
Rolnick says although he has seen the homeless population skyrocket, that's not the issue.
The problem is the people who have mental issues. The state and other municipalities have eliminated all the health care facilities for these people.
BPD says there's more to it than that.
Sometimes it's a mental health issue, sometimes it's destruction for destruction's sake, or sometimes it's got more nefarious reasons like an attempt burglary.
Just blocks away in East Chester, the building owned by Stephen Harris suffered smoke damage after a fire in the business next door, causing his tenants to close and go out of business.
What's going on in my situation has nothing to do with mental capacity. It's a hardcore criminal element that's just running around these streets creating havoc. What I've been trying to do is restore the building, but it's almost impossible to do because I'm getting break-ins every night. Homeless people coming in, vandalizing, and I can't keep them out. We board up the windows and doors. They just rip the boards off. They have no fear of the police.
Harris says the police rarely come out unless they happen to be passing by and catching someone in the act. Typically, they tell him to call code enforcement. Harris says this has been an ongoing issue for the past month, with the last break-in happening Thursday night.
The city needs to just make a stand. At some point, this is really a war against competing civil rights. And really, does a person's property rights have any meaning or value at all? Or are the city politicians here just going to surrender entire areas and just allow lawlessness?
Harris says he doesn't blame the police for this, but hopes his message is a call to action for the city politicians.
This is a political situation. The city leaders here are not doing their job. It's unconscionable that they would surrender sections of a city in which the area is trying to undergo redevelopment.
Now, we reached out to Councilman Andre Gonzalez, who released a statement, and you can see that on our website, kget.com. In your 17 Business Watch, Jersey Mike's Subs kicks off its 11th annual Month of Giving today, and the sandwich shop is hoping to raise a record-breaking amount for money for charity. Jersey Mike's locations in Bakersfield are partnering with the League of Dreams. All month, you can make donations through the Jersey Mike's app or in stores. Then on March 31st, all sales purchased the entire day will be donated to the local nonprofit. For a full list of locations, just head to our website, kget.com. And the city of Tehachapi has come up with a new way to encourage people to shop local. They're offering a reward program. Customers who buy more than $100 of goods and services from small businesses within the city can bring their receipts to City Hall throughout the month of March. In return, they'll receive a $20 gift card for use of local restaurants. Valid purchases include retail items, food and drink, excluding alcohol, and personal services like haircuts and getting your nails done. Gift cards will be offered once per week per person.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Noon.
The 17 News at Noon podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.